time to get our meeting underway. Before we get started here this evening, I'd just like to make anyone who is not familiar with the procedure to address the board during the public concerns and comments section. You should be able to pick up a comment card in the foyer area and fill it out and then give it to a commissioner or Mr. Harris, and it will get to myself, and I'll be able to read that out during that portion of the agenda. I'd like to ask you to silence your cell phones at this time. Commission members, please put yours on vibrate due to the microphone, or turn your vibration off as well due to the microphones. Before we get started here this evening, I've asked Eric Musgrove to lead us in the invocation of the pledge. Please rise.
Let's pray. Our God in heaven, we come to you today to thank you for all the wonderful blessings of life that you have so richly bestowed upon us. We thank you for this time that we have together to come and discuss the business of the county, the public that is here to see what goes on with their county. We ask for guidance as this board makes its decisions. Pray that they will make those choices which will increase the county in a positive way. Be with those who are suffering from floods in Louisiana and other parts of the nation. Through your son's name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Musgrove, for handling that for us this evening. Item number 1 on our agenda is approval of the meeting minutes for my regularly scheduled board meeting on August 2nd, 2016. Members of the board, do you see any changes or corrections that need to be made to those minutes?
I'm not sure. I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Gamble, seconded by Commissioner Wainwright. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Moving on to the consent area of our agenda this evening, are there any items that any commissioner would like pulled for individual consideration? Hearing none, I need a motion for approval for items 2 through 8.
I'll make a motion to approve 2 through 8.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Sessions, seconded by Commissioner Fleming. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Moving on to proclamations and presentations this evening, item number 9. We're going to have the introduction of a new state 4-H treasurer, Christian Rodriguez, and that will be a presentation, introduction made to us by Mrs. Catherine Allen. She is the UF IFAS Extension Director, and we'll turn our attention now over to Ms. Allen.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. I really appreciate this opportunity because our office is pretty darn proud. We have great youngsters in Suwannee County, and we have a great 4-H program, and when those two come together, amazing things can happen. So one of the things that I'm here to introduce is Christian Rodriguez. He started in 4-H when he was 6 years old, and as the rest of the counties in the state, those youth have elected this young man as the treasurer for the state 4-H council. He's asked to say a few words, and I just have to let you know that I did not couch him or counsel him in any way. So, Christian Rodriguez.
I'd like to thank you for your time this evening. We've had an amazing year last year. We had several state winners in a whole bunch of different project areas, including judging teams, photos, public speaking, and different livestock projects. We have an exciting year ahead of us, and I'm honored to serve the local, county, and the state 4-H program this year. I'd like to say thank you to the county commissioners for your support of our extension program. It's because of your support that we can send youth like myself to different leadership development programs across the state to put me in a place to become a state officer and other youth as well. Since I've been in 4-H in Suwannee County, it has been home to 3 different state 4-H officers, and I hope that with your continued support, we can continue to raise youth to be not only leaders in our county, but for the entire state. Thank you so much for your time. I'm open to all questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Rodriguez here this evening by the board? Any comments, words of encouragement?
I'll just offer a comment.
Go ahead.
Mr. Rodriguez, it's certainly a privilege for Suwannee County to have you representing us, the youth, and it's my background was in FFA and was very supportive of that organization, and 4-H. I'm trying to get to that level as well. But I applaud your efforts. I know it's an outstanding youth organization. I think those two organizations that I just mentioned are probably the premier youth organizations that any could belong to. And I'm grateful that you're stepping out and making that effort, and I congratulate you and hope you have a great year.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Wainwright.
I would like to say, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say the
Go
same
ahead.
thing Mr. Wainwright is saying. Look, the young man making a very powerful speech. It take a lot to stand before people. Sometimes you get camera shy, stage fright, whatever, but I appreciate your efforts also.
Proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. I'd like to mimic their words, but also say that being a good communicator is very important in all fields that you decide to go into, and you certainly possess that ability. So keep it up. Continue to represent the 4-H group as best that you can, and of course, we know that you'll represent Suwannee County well. So best of luck. We thank you for your efforts and your volunteering to reach out above and beyond your own personal interests, but in helping others. So we really appreciate that. Thank you. And we'll see you down the road.
Thank you, sir.
I have a feeling that we might see him back here next year as president, so just watch out for this young man.
Deal.
Green jackets are not just for golf, are they? So. That's right. All right. Moving on down to commissioner items. This evening, I have one commissioner item that has requested to be placed before the board. Are there any others? Hearing none, I'm going to turn the floor over to Commissioner Clyde Fleming as he addresses us and those present here today.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and to the commissioners, I have put together a little piece of writing here. County currently provides EMS within the city of Live Oak. This is the most expensive portion of fire rescue. As I've kept track of recent discussions among the city council pertaining to budget restraints, I have wondered if there are a more efficient way of providing both fire and emergency rescue services that would benefit the city and the county. If the other commissioners believe that it's worth exploring, I request that we would direct the administrator and fire chief to provide an option or options for board consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner Fleming. Discussion, gentlemen.
Go
Commissioner
first, sir. Many times we see the overlap of services in the city. The city will dispatch a vehicle to a wreck or a fire, and also the county will dispatch at least an ambulance or a fire truck to the same location. So if we combine it, I believe we can do it cheaper.
Understood. Anybody else?
Mr. Fleming, Commissioner Fleming,
Yes, sir.
I didn't quite hear it very well, but is this a request made by the city council of the commission to consider this?
No. They didn't make the request, but I'm asking that the board, that Mr. Harris and our fire chief would make a request to them, to the city.
Mr. Chairman,
Direct,
Hold on. Go ahead, Commissioner Fleming.
that we would direct our city county administrator and the fire chief to make that request to the city.
Understood.
Yeah.
Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, if I could add just a brief comment. I received a phone call from the city manager. I don't attend their meetings, but the city manager indicated that the council asked him to get with me and try to put a proposal together. Sounded like it's something along the lines of what Commissioner Fleming is discussing, a proposal that maybe would improve efficiencies or something along those lines related to this fire rescue issue. And I've had conversations with some of the councilmen over the last year or so. I know that it's on their radar screen to some extent because of the number of conversations, even recently, that they've brought to me. So I'll be glad to put a proposal together that very likely will incorporate some of what we're already doing. Because I agree that we are already providing the emergency medical response, and that is the most costly portion of the services that are being rendered. You know that we recently responded to that fire downtown. A city manager called me and expressed his appreciation. I shared that with you at the time. So there may be an opportunity to create some efficiencies that don't exist today. I'll be glad to put something together with the chief and bring it back to you.
Okay. Any further comments by the board?
I think it's worth a discussion. I think it needs to be something that we definitely workshop with the city. That's what I'd like to see, but I would like to see a proposal, and it's worth entering into the discussion on it.
Yeah, I too would like to see some information go back and forth before we meet, because then you just,
No, I would like to see it, but I don't want to move into it, sending a messenger back and forth between council and the board. I'd like to sit down face to face with them.
well, but I mean, I'm just talking about some of the little details.
Yeah, we can have a plan together before that happens, but I'm talking about eventually.
Understood.
I'm open to the discussion, but I wanted to make sure that before we expend a lot of time and energy, and I want to make sure that it's by their request. I mean, I don't want to be accused of us trying to go in there and manipulate, their services. It's theirs to begin with.
Yeah.
I know there is a duplication and overlap of services. Everything that's been stated is true. That's all. My concern, I just want to make sure that it's an invitation by them. I don't mind sitting at the table and going over it. I think there can be some economies of scale that are gained. So I'm okay for the discussion.
Understood.
I
Okay.
have, Mr. Chairman, I have spoken with a couple of them anyway, and they have talked about it. They had some concerns about their fire fire services and stuff.
Understood. Okay, so I think that the consensus of the board is for as was proposed by Commissioner Fleming's letter here, for the fire chief and also the county administrator to engage in some limited discussion with the city administrator to see what type of details that what their expectations are of the county. So, okay. All right, moving on. County attorney items. Do you have anything to discuss this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple, but they'll be addressed under the additional agenda items.
Understood. Moving back to general business, item number 10, discuss with possible board action allowing employees to continue accruing vacation and sick leave while out on workers' compensation claim. We had a request by Commissioner Gamble to place this on the agenda at the last meeting, so we'll turn the floor over to him at this time.
Fellow commissioners, I just wanted to continue the conversation that we had at the last board meeting. When we changed the policy a while back on accrual of leave, I think that this was an oversight on the board on the workman's compensation claims as far as them building time up when they're out on a job-related injury. I may be wrong, but I felt that what the board was moving for when we approved this policy was unscheduled sick leave when they were calling in as a method of trying to rein in some of the call-ins. When the policy was implemented, it was implemented across annual leave, sick leave, workman's comp. We went back and we fixed it on the annual leave, but I feel like the workman's comp was an oversight. The last board meeting, I was just asking for some feedback from the board to see if y'all felt the same way or if this was just the way that I felt about it. And y'all asked for some more time to think on it, and that's why we placed it on today's agenda. So I'm hoping y'all have a little bit of comment on whether I'm thinking different or if it was an oversight.
Well, I think any time that we have an issue that is brought before the board and we have, and in particular, if a specific individual or business or somebody has a policy question or a monetary question that the board has to make a decision upon, it requires kind of a microscopic look into every aspect of the of the issue. And I think on the surface, when we look at this issue and we say, okay, we have an employee who got hurt on the job, it sounds harsh to say, well, if they're off during that time, that they should not continue to accrue sick leave. But what we have to do is we have to look at some fundamental principles here, and that is when you take a job, there's a simple formula that's used. It's a time exchange for money. You go to work, you work a certain amount of hours, you've negotiated a rate for that, and that is what your pay is. Then, above and beyond that, we have what we call benefits and fringe benefits, which are added to that. And we have developed over the years, it's nothing new, we didn't invent this, it's called sick leave. And that is what sick leave should be used for. So my thoughts on this are, in order to get a full picture of what's going on, I've spent a considerable amount of time on this issue. I've asked staff, specifically Mr. Harris, to put together some information in regards to this so we can understand the issue in its totality. And then I have some information, and I'm sure the rest of you guys have put together some information on it so we can have a spirited discussion about it, so we can try to get some sort of clarity on how much the taxpayer should be on the hook for fringe benefits and benefits above and beyond the formula used to pay, which is the time in exchange for money. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Harris.
Before Mr. Harris, while he's passing out what he is, now we sat through budget workshops today, and we talked about the rate of pay that the county's employees get. Most county's employees, when they start out here, they're starting out $10, $11 an hour. And we've all agreed that we're starting them out under what private sector jobs are, based on they're getting their pay, and then an incentive or a benefits package. When we set forth to eliminate accrual of time when they called in, it was because we were having a problem with people calling in, and it was to fix that problem. But it has since been spread across the board, and we went back and fixed it in one spot. But I don't think when an individual is working for you and they get a legit injury on the job, that it then becomes tough luck, go on. At some point, if they don't return, it does, but I believe you still owe them a certain bit of respect for that injury related to the job.
Well, it becomes a question of how much sick leave do you afford them prior to. So I think that provision is made in the accrual of sick leave and annual leave. So we have to ask ourselves, how much more sick leave do we get when it's supposed to be used specifically for when you're either A, injured at home, or B, injured on the job. We offer workman's comp as provided by law, which pays 66 2/3 of their salary. We supplement the other 33 1/3. And I did not say that I wasn't in favor of your proposal to not continue to let them accrue sick leave and annual leave, but I feel like if they don't have any sick leave or annual leave to use when they're hurt on the job, then they should not be allowed to continue to accrue sick leave and annual leave on the job. I think there's some personal responsibility there.
Well, if they run out of time, that's a different discussion. But I'm talking about when the individual goes out at the beginning, you burn their time at that point, and they're still not accruing any time.
Well, I mean, if they have time to use to burn, and they're gone for more than 7 days, then they're going to get 66 2/3 of their salary in workman's comp. And then we're going to supplement 33 1/3, and currently, they're not going to accrue anything right now. They're not the way it's
Currently right now, correct.
But if you said that an employee who has accrued sick leave properly and used it properly, then if they want to have a continued accrual of sick leave, then they need to have sick leave banked up for that particular reason. I think that there may be a compromise there. It should be two things. Employees should have the option to just take their salary, their 66 2/3, if they want, with no usage of their sick leave.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, and then the second option would be that if they did decide to use that, they could continue to accrue sick leave unless they have no sick leave or annual leave to use. And then they would accrue nothing. They would only have the 66 2/3. So, there are multiple ways. We could leave it the same. We can, like I said, there are different ways to approach the subject. But ultimately, what we're trying to accomplish here is for the employee to be responsible enough to bank the sick leave, I think.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a comment.
Mr. Sessions.
Two things I'd like to cover. Say you have a brand-new person, just got seniority, hasn't hardly any accrued any time at all. Somebody runs over his foot out there on the property and crushes it. So he's got nothing to fall back on, and he has to go to Gainesville 3 days a week for 8 weeks. So he's got all this money invested back and forth, and of course he can't do anything else because he's going back and forth to therapy or to surgery or whatever. So being that he came to work for us and got hurt doing something for us, who's going to pay for the trips back and forth? So he's not going to accrue at the rate of a third of his pay. He's only going to accrue, I don't even know what it is. Is it 8 hours of pay period now? Is that what it is, Randy?
8 hours a month, isn't it?
8 hours a month, there's 4 hours of pay period?
4 hours pay.
Yeah.
So say he's got nothing in the bank to start with. He's only going to accrue 8 hours a month, and let's say he's making these trips, and I've seen this happen in the past where people have to go to therapy and backup appointments and things like that. So he's going in the hole, only bringing in 66 2/3, when it was actually working for us that he got injured. That's my concern is if it was carelessness that you could prove on the job, then no, I wouldn't worry about it. But if somebody's actually doing their job and they get injured on the job, then we have some obligation to them to let them accrue, because really their job is to go to the doctor appointments, because you'll make sure they do that. That's their job until they get better so they can come back to work. So they're forced by us to make all their doctor's appointments, because if they don't, we're going to have a problem with them not going to the doctor's appointments either. So that's my view on it.
Well, if you're going to try to put a safety net under everybody for every particular scenario, it's not going to, you just can't policy, you're going to policy yourself to death.
It's not a safety net.
So there are other counties that allow accrual of sick leave while they're out, but it has specific strings attached to it, just like I described. And some counties allow it, does not allow it. Some counties do allow it. But one common theme that I found through all of the counties that I polled and called was that, with the exception of Hamilton County, they all require employee contributions to their health insurance and stuff like that. So you say, well, how does that play into the picture? Well, it's again, we're talking about benefits for the employees. And so what I'd like to go over is what our current benefit package is for the employees, and see how much more above and beyond you want to get into that. We contribute $677 a month, and that's about $2.9 million a year in health insurance costs for the employees. They get sick leave 8 hours per month. There's $2.2 million banked right now throughout all the employees. We covered about $1.1 million of that if they cash that in. We get annual leave, depending on the length of tenure with them, 8, 10, 13.33 hours a month. We get 3 to 6% respectively for the FRS, depending on which one you're into. That's $798,000 a year. Life insurance, $20,000 of coverage, $8.20 per employee. That's $40,000 a year. Workman's comp rates, which are required by law, is $415,000 a year. 1% automatic raise each year. This year it was $92,000. We offer short-term disability accident coverage. Depending on your age, it's between $10 and $38 a pay period. You get life insurance between $5 and $108 a pay period. Cancer coverage for $31 a pay period. Supplemental health options, depending on your age, between $10 and $32 a pay period. So there is enough safety nets there to cover. I think Mr. Harris is going to address how much sick leave we do accrue in a year for an employee. And most of the employees are given a sufficient amount each year. And no, there's really very limited, if something like this happens to an employee, it's limited. I don't know how often it occurs where they don't have any banked time and
It's not that they didn't have any bank time, but they ran out of their bank time. When you start drawing it every week to make up the difference in your paycheck, and you're not building it based on your hours, then
Right.
you run out pretty quick.
I've talked about that already.
But you talk about this great incentive packet or benefit packet that we have, and it is. But that's why you get people to come work for you for $19,000 a year, $20,000 a year. They're not coming in here because they're getting rich. They come for the benefits.
Well,
And if you're going to start chipping away at their benefits and taking those away, then going to have to eventually start looking at, if you're going to decrease the benefit package, then you might have to start increasing the pay package.
I don't look at it as we're chipping away at their benefits package.
Comment, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Wainwright.
I didn't make a mistake in the choice and the decision that I made earlier. I've yet to find anyone in the private sector that rivals the benefit package that we provide. I've yet to find any private entity out there that is outpacing the county in wages. We're right there neck and neck on wages. We overexceed or overachieve on the benefits package. Now, to put it in a nutshell, I mean, we can talk about it all night long. I don't wish to. But we're asking all these taxpayers out here, and us too, to subsidize this benefit package. And we can go on and we can add to it, as I made a comment today, we can add to it ad nauseum. We can keep trying to cover every little thing we can and give everybody the feel-good, touchy-feely thing. I don't know what you call it. But we can't provide a safety net at every measure. Workers' comp provides that safety net, and we provide that by law, and then we go above and beyond that. Yes, there are some abuses out there, but I don't even consider that. Again, I go back to the simple fact that in all the businesses that I've talked to, nobody is providing anything like this. And they're starting them off at minimum wage. I'm talking about minimum wage jobs. I'm talking about career jobs. I'm talking about every level of pay that you can find. There's nobody out there providing a benefit package to this extent. I do not wish to go back and add anything back to it. I don't want to change it. I think we're doing, this ball got started rolling a long time ago, and it might have been for the reason that because we weren't being competitive in the wage, in the wage arena, but that was a mistake. Because ultimately the benefits will outweigh the wages, and that's what we're facing now. We have absorbed over the last 8 years, we have continually absorbed health insurance increases and did not pass that on to the employee. And even though that was some years that they didn't get raises, there were some substantial health insurance premium increases that the county absorbed. And I kind of looked at that as part of the raise, because I can show you companies out there right now that have a terrible insurance package in relation to ours, and they're paying $90, $180 a month, sharing the cost of that. That's their contribution to their insurance. We don't even ask our employees to do that. And with the new laws, the way they're structured, I just found out last night in talking to a husband and wife, his spouse has to come off of his insurance because her employer provides insurance. She's got to go get insurance with them. Now, I don't know if that's the way it is or that's the way it's got to be, but I'm just telling y'all that I think that where we're at right now is very generous. I don't wish to change it, add to it. I'd rather leave it like it is. There's plenty of opportunity to save up and bank up sick leave, which, in my world doesn't even exist. You didn't get paid, you were SOL. That's just what it was. So I'm going to stop there, and y'all can continue on with your discussion.
When we approved it, it was nothing to do with annual leave, and had nothing to do with workman's comp, it was strictly to do with the abuse of sick leave. Now, if that included workman's comp, it didn't in my book. I think whether it's too much benefit, not too much benefit is one thing, but I believe that when you hire somebody and you bring them on at a certain rate, at a certain benefit package, that you've kind of committed to them. And if a man, woman gets hurt on the job, I feel you owe them a little bit. And if I'm wrong with that, then I'm wrong with it, but that's just my opinion of it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? All right, I hear nothing further. There is one thing I'd like to address at the next board meeting, since we're discussing this, is, and maybe Mr. Harris can fill us in on it, with regard to the amount of days that pass when we require a doctor's note. How many days passes before we require somebody to bring in a doctor's note?
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember. What I do remember is the most recent change that you made that.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But,
I'd have to look at it.
all right, I'll discuss it with you after. Okay, moving right along to item number 11, discuss with possible board action, Suwannee County Historical Museum Association. Item number 11, we didn't have anybody, who is here to discuss that this evening? Harris?
Mr. Carter.
Carter, I think.
Come up to the podium.
Sam Carter.
Carter?
I really don't understand what my name's Sam Carter. I'm treasurer for the Museum Association, have been involved with the Museum Association since its inception in 1993. But, I don't know what y'all are wanting to discuss about the Museum Association tonight.
I just received a request to have it placed on the agenda, and it was placed on the agenda. So I'm looking at staff right now.
The renewal of our members for the board.
Okay.
We asked several months ago for certain members to be placed on it, and yet it hasn't come up before you, but we would still request that you accept these people that we've recommended, as we've done in the past.
Okay. We're in budget workshops now, so, we'll be talking to you tomorrow with
Yes.
regard to that. And as far as the approvals go on the Museum Association, I got a letter from the president that said that you guys did not want to join with the historical council at all.
That's right.
Along with some other accusations and so on and so forth in the letter. I think it's clear I don't have any warm and fuzzy feelings at this point, but we'll talk to you tomorrow, I guess, and after we come out of budget workshops, we'll have a better picture of what's going on there.
So, but you still don't want to take up, our recommendation for those people to be put on the board, then, huh?
Well, that wasn't included in the item for the agenda this
Yep.
evening, but we certainly can add it to a future meeting
Yeah.
if we decide that we still want, the board to exist. Yeah.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all's time.
All right. Item number 12, discuss with possible board action any items related to the state's attorney's office, and we'll turn our attention. We see the building's up.
Building's
Wheels on?
partially up. The latest update is that it has rained. And it has rained a lot and slowed us down a little bit. Having said that, they're trying the best they can to continue moving. I'll give you a quick update on the concrete pole that was estimated at $30,000. We've gotten a considerably better price from them. So
Nice
we'll
of
be
'em.
signing that agreement soon, and I think it's less than $20,000 now.
Oh, is it only
It is
20
nice.
now?
Yeah.
All right.
I think this one's silver-plated instead of gold-plated.
I know where the six wood
But
poles
in
are.
any
Take the
event, that
bronze
was
version.
encouraging. And we're working on some of the other issues with Mizell Building, and we'll continue to do that and get those bids out soon.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harris. We have some additional agenda items. I'll read them into the record here this evening and consider whether or not we want to pick them up. Additional agenda item number 1, discuss and consider renewal of agreements with Suwannee River Water Management District for solid waste collection sites located at Falmouth Springs and Suwannee Springs. Number 2, discuss with possible board action parking lot improvements at Brantford High School. Number 3, discuss with possible board action interlocal agreement with Suwannee Valley Transit Authority. And number 4, approval of certificate of acceptance and distribution of subgrant award for the FDLE Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $39,979 for Suwannee County Drug Task Force for Sheriff's Office. Does any board member have any problem adding these to the agenda this evening? Hearing none, we'll move into item number 1, discuss and consider the renewal of agreements with Suwannee River Water Management District for solid waste collection sites located at Falmouth Springs and Suwannee Springs. And we'll turn our attention to Jimmy Pravat, County Attorney.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, what this simply is an item from, a request from the Suwannee River Water Management District to confirm the extensions of the land use for these 2 particular sites. When the contracts were drawn up to utilize the sites that are actually owned by the district, the contracts have a provision in them, you can call it an evergreen provision, where it automatically renews as long as we have possession of it. But for their accounting purposes, they like to have something in their file that actually says that we're going to renew it.
Okay.
Although they automatically renew, they want to have something in their file to do that. The Suwannee Springs agreement actually expired back in December of 2013, and the recent one for Falmouth Springs actually expired in June of this year. The agreement is still in effect, but they would just like to have something in their file to do that. So I had prepared for you, and for the chairman's signature, 2 letters addressed to Mr. McKinstry, who's the facilities operations manager, that simply confirms that we are renewing them and we're continuing to go forward with that. So that would be the first item I would like to address, is those 2 letters with regard to Falmouth Springs and to Suwannee Springs. The next thing I'd like for you to consider is, while we're at this, and we know that we're going to be utilizing these sites for a considerable amount of time, one of the agreements is an older agreement with Falmouth, and so that we can go ahead and now look forward and get these terms stretched out a little bit. While it's on everybody's mind, let's go ahead and nail these things down. And so I'd like to have permission to talk to I suggested in your letter, but to talk with Mr. McKinstry about go ahead and redoing the agreements to extend the times on out. And as a matter of fact, both of the agreements go at different times, and I'd like to coordinate those times so that when we address it, it's all at one time, even in the future.
Understood. Okay, are there any questions of the board by council? I mean, to council, sorry. Hearing none, so do you want to do an individual vote on Falmouth Springs and Suwannee Springs, or would that just one vote?
Just the 2 will be fine.
Just 2
Approve
together?
the letter
Okay.
of renewal.
We just want to make a motion to approve the sending of the letter and the renewal of agreements with Suwannee River Water Management District for the collection sites located at Falmouth Springs and Suwannee Springs. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Interpretation.
Get it over with.
Motion made by Commissioner Wainwright, seconded by Commissioner Gamble. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Do you want to go on down and just, do you want to go ahead and address the Suwannee Valley Transit Authority? And you and Mr. Sessions can talk to us about that. That would be item number 3, discuss with possible board action in a local agreement with Suwannee Valley Transit Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For about a year now, they've been talking at Suwannee Valley Transit about redoing the interlocal agreement among the three counties to kind of conform to what they're actually doing. When the agreement was written a number of years ago, it's kind of been tweaked a little bit, and the idea is to just bring the agreement up to speed to reflect where we are right now, and to also to set a baseline for the funding that would be available each item going forward. You know, every year when it comes in at budget time, you have differing amounts that are asked for by the differing counties, and well, what are they going to do? What are we going to do? Why are they more than us? You know, that kind of thing. So this would also streamline the funding mechanism for that. Originally in your packet, you got an agreement that was initially drafted by Commissioner Sessions and his and staff as part of as part of his job as administrator over at Suwannee Valley Transit. Well, that agreement, he took it to Hamilton County, and Hamilton County did approve it. And it has been signed by them, and it's in your packet that way. However, it takes 3 signatures for everything to move forward, and Columbia County was not willing to sign the agreement with those particular terms in it. Since that time, I've been able to speak with Mr. Foreman, and we've bantered back and forth on a form of interlocal agreement that contains the ideas that were being addressed by Mr. Sessions and into a new interlocal agreement form. I've provided it to you as part of the additional agenda item here. And I've also, had correspondence with Mr. Foreman this afternoon that this particular form is what he will also recommend to Columbia County at their next meeting. So it'll then be up to the Suwannee Valley Transit administrator to go back and convince Hamilton County that they need to sign on with this particular format. The big difference about this one is the funding. And the funding will be at 90 cents per capita for each of the counties, and it'll be whatever the number is per capita that's reflected in statutes, rather than everybody guessing.
Right.
So we got a good baseline, and then everybody will then know what funding is going to be, going forward each year. That's not to say that Suwannee Valley Transit may at some time request additional funding, but it will not obligate the county, and it will give us certainty.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pravat. Mr. Sessions, do you have anything to add?
The bottom line was I was just trying to streamline the process to where everybody kind of understood what was going on and brought a pretty fair figure to the table. So if anything's decided to be voted on, I will abstain from the vote.
Understood. Okay, so gentlemen, you have this interlocal agreement before you. It has the blessing of both Columbia County Attorney and Suwannee County Attorney. What are your wishes regarding this interlocal agreement?
I'll motion approval.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Wainwright, seconded by Commissioner Fleming. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
To discuss with possible board action parking lot improvements at Brantford High School. We're going to turn our attention now to Randy Harris, County Administrator.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, there is an effort underway to create an improved parking lot at the Brantford High School, which will essentially be placing lime rock in there, and then school board or the school is planning to purchase millings to place on top as a top coat on that. And I've been asked if the board would entertain the possibility of helping to facilitate that with the equipment necessary for, and the lime rock, but spreading lime rock out there in preparation for those millings to be laid.
Okay.
Do we have an idea
Discussion.
how many rocks it is? Or how many rocks?
How many
loads of
rocks?
rock?
Two rocks.
How many
It'll take
loads
quite-
of rock?
It'll take quite a few rocks. I don't know.
I was thinking plural.
It's a good-sized parking lot. It's probably 150 by 200 or 250. We would have to work it in at the end of our work week, maybe Friday and Saturday for a couple of weeks to try to get it out of the way. We're loaded up right now, and I've made that clear to everyone. I mean, all of you know that we're trying to fix behind erosion on roads that have been hit hard by the rains. And that's just typical of this time of year, so it would have to wait a little while until we could get to it. As we get on top of the roads and get them taken care of, we just have to fit it in.
Well, it's Branford, obviously, I'm in.
Did we ever
Bring home the
any
bacon.
kind of agreement with them on this little stretch of road back here on coming in for a parking lot?
No, we didn't make any headway with that. I'll try to give you a quick sketch on that. When we were working on the site plan for the new state attorney's office, we were considering at the time that we were considering the secure parking lot for state attorney's employees. One of those proposals was to place that secure parking lot on the west end of the new state attorney's office, which would be back toward the stadium. We have some leftover remnants of old asphalt back here behind us. So I had contacted Mr. Carver and talked to him briefly about it, and indicated that, this was something that would have to go to their board. What would have to go to their board was the idea of improving the driveway that comes in next to the quarterback club that would come up into this new parking lot, the new parking lot being on the property that the county commission owns. We had an interesting conversation about that. He indicated there was some history with some board members of the school board that believed that the county commission was going to build them a parking lot, or build a parking lot back in this general area that would then also serve their stadium. I indicated to him that we weren't building a parking lot on that scale, that the primary parking lot for the state attorney's office was actually over here next to Pine. So he was going to talk to some school board members, but indicated that it probably wasn't going to fly because he knew that some would be opposed to it. We also talked about the possibility of maybe lining up a driveway that came through, lined up with the street over there. It's next to the pond, the retention pond. So I had to sleep on that night, and I had a vision. In the vision, I envisioned a parking lot instead being over here between the Mizell building that we were working on purchasing and the state attorney's office, knowing that whatever we end up doing with the Mizell building, it would need parking as well. So I came out the next day. Mr. Carver had one of the school board members there. I said, we really don't need to go much farther with this. I've come up with an alternative plan that will actually serve our needs better. It'll take care of the Mizell building when we do whatever we do in there. It'll provide the parking that we need for the secure parking for the state attorney's office and some additional parking for whomever needs to use it. And right now I'm thinking it's probably going to be the sheriff's department with employees that work at the jail. So we didn't go any farther than that, but the initial indication was that it wasn't going to work, and that there were varying opinions on parking lot improvements amongst school board members. And at that time, quite frankly, we had been through a couple of months of waiting to see what was going to happen with the city and those the storage containers we were still wrestling with. We didn't have another couple months to wrestle with that issue. So that's when we came back and changed and didn't need that anymore. Just went ahead and fit it in between the two buildings up there.
Well, the only reason I asked, I knew we were pursuing it at one point, and if we still were, I was going to suggest using that as leverage. That was it.
Well, with moving it over between these other two buildings, between the Mizell building and the state attorney's office in the future, when the state attorney's office building gets expanded back to the west, it won't be necessary to remove that parking lot at that point. So it was actually a better plan in the end anyway.
Okay. Well, we've been working together closely with the city in solving some of their issues that they've had for lack of equipment and just to help out the community at large. I don't necessarily have a problem helping them with parking lot improvement at the Brantford High School, as long as they're shouldering the responsibility of any engineering costs or approvals by water management or anything like that. I would solely be in for materials and labor. That's it.
We're just hauling rock, right?
Spreading it.
Spreading it, yeah.
Probably
I'm fine with that.
leveling some ground out there. There'll be some grader work and dump trucks, lime rock.
Everybody okay with that?
Go with it.
Commissioner?
I'm good with it.
All right.
I will say that if we're going to have to come up with an estimated cost on it so that we're not paying it out of gas taxes, because those are dedicated to road maintenance, not parking lots. So we'd have to look and see, or just make it clear that any transfer in that the board does into the road department, we just ensure that we note that it's coming from that.
Well, we have a general consensus. Why don't we put it on the next agenda with an amount for discussion or something? Or is that something that we have to make a decision on right away for them? Because I agree with your concept, which is a cap or something like that.
It isn't going to be a terribly expensive. I mean, clearly there's an expense.
Yeah.
I mean, the bottom line, we all know that all of the money comes out of the taxpayers' pocket.
That's right.
So probably we can do it more efficiently, just get it done. It's one of the few projects that's close to the mine in this particular case. Everything else is about as far away as you can get. So we could have an exercise in a project that's actually close to the mine in this case. The turnaround with the trucks and everything would be very quick. It would take so long to bid the thing out, and with profit margins, I'm sure that it would cost the taxpayers more if it was bid out.
Understood.
Yeah.
So since there is an
In-house.
expenditure of funds, I think we need a motion to assist them in this. So what are the wishes of the board?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Fleming. Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Sessions.
We'll do it now.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to item number 4, approval of certificate of acceptance and distribution of sub-grant award for the FDLE Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $39,979 for Suwannee County Drug Task Force for Sheriff's Office. Is there anybody have any questions or anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I'll briefly
Okay.
comment if I could.
Go ahead.
This is something that comes up every year. We apply for the grant. The board has to apply for the grant, then it's traditionally turned over to the Sheriff's Department.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Wainwright, seconded by Commissioner Gamble. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on. Public concerns and comments. I have none this evening. We'll move on into...
Got one.
Okay.
My name is Bo Hancock. I live at 6135 Wiggins Road. Just a couple of quick comments. Y'all were discussing about the workers' comp employees, or one being out on workers' comp. Mr. Sessions, I believe workers' comp does reimburse for mileage. You fill out the paperwork, and it might be 2 or 3 months, but you'll get your money, or used to.
I've never
Yeah.
been workers' comp, I didn't know, so.
And just to Mr. Bashaw, you mentioned that the employees are already getting a 1% pay raise, that it's not a pay raise. Y'all decided last year that the 5-year longevity pay that they would get at the end of 5 years for staying with you, and you would not. They would get it every year, 1%, and y'all would not call it a raise. Mr. Gamble, I believe, was very adamant about that, but yet you called it a raise. I don't know if you misspoke or not. I just wanted to point that out. And the last thing, why isn't the school board handling their own parking lot? I mean, it's just a question. Pardon?
Well, I can answer that part. The rest of it, I don't know, but, they don't have the equipment. They'd have to bid it out, as Mr. Harris indicated, but actually, the principal called me about a week ago, and he really couldn't even tell me what all they were doing. It was only that Anderson Columbia was milling up a road over in Mayo, and that they could get the millings at a third of what they traditionally sell it for. They were going to kind of help them out with the cost of it. So that's kind of how it got started, and I turned it over to him, Mr. Harris.
But that was my only concern, is why are we, the school board gets our tax dollars too.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether we
not-
could use them better than him, I don't know.
I'm not going to try to speak for them, but I will say that they have experienced some reductions at the state level over the last several years, significant reductions. Like we get some ad valorem offset funds. They were getting that for a time. That ceased. They were reduced in their millage rate that they could assess over the last several years, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. So, as a good faith olive branch type deal, I mean, we've worked with the city here recently, and so I think it builds camaraderie between the various branches of government locally, and I think it's a good thing.
I just didn't know, and that didn't come up in a discussion. Thank you.
Chairman,
Mr. Harris?
if I could briefly, I think, too, they recognize the need to try to save where they can. If you recall, it's only been a few years ago that we constructed Silas Drive, and that was a joint effort. And really, that was done to try to save money as well. The road department ended up building that road, and then we contracted out the asphalt. And then Stadium Drive, what we call Stadium Drive, we did the same thing. So we do have some history, and with each of those occurrences, I have to believe that we've saved the taxpayers something. So I think that's all this is just a continuation of that effort.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. While we're with you, do you have any comments you'd like to make to the board at this time, or information you'd like to pass along?
The Perimeter Road project will be starting very soon. We're about to, in fact, we were trying to schedule that pre-construction meeting. Did we get that set up for Thursday? The next Thursday, about a week out, pre-construction meeting, so we'll have the notice to proceed for you to sign, unless you've already done it. But so that project will be moving very soon.
Excellent. All right, board members, inquiries, requests, and comments. We'll start with, we'll go the other way. Commissioner Wainwright? I know I started with you last time, too, so.
That's all right. I don't have anything tonight, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Gamble?
The only thing I'm going to touch on real quick, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go back to this museum association. In looking through it and hearing Mr. Carter talk, I think their request that they made was for their members to be reappointed. And what I'm looking at in the agenda is the letter that they sent. In going back through the minutes, and a request that we asked back in January, I think, when they originally had placed their board members on the board meeting. We had talked about merger and different things, and we had pulled it. So I don't know. I don't have the board members here, but we've almost put them off for almost a year on whether or not to approve them or not. And I don't see no reason why we couldn't go ahead and approve them. Maybe not at this meeting, but at least put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Even if the board and the city council do move forward and decide to do something different with the two bodies, at that point it'll be irrelevant who the board members are on their board. But I mean, I think we should at least move forward and
I agree, Mr. Chairman.
give them the respect to go ahead and renew their board members.
I would have done it, offered that tonight, but we didn't have a list of names.
I don't have, that was what I was looking for.
We don't have it.
I didn't-
Well,
Can we do it based off of the names that they have? I mean, it's the same board members, correct?
we can.
I'd rather, honestly, I'd rather it come back in the agenda.
Yeah.
I'd rather it be in the agenda.
That's fine. We are going through, as I mentioned before, we're going through budget workshops. I guess you guys received the letter that they sent with all of the additional accusations and innuendo, which I think is reflective of the attitude there. So we're going to address funding at the workshop. This is something that's come up year after year, and I think it's time that we just make a decision on what we want to do. I know
Bring the
that
gloves.
the TD has made a decision. I feel the city's going to make a decision. I think we need to make a decision as well.
Well, in the meantime, if we can, on the next board meeting, go ahead and let's reappoint their board members, just out of,
Okay.
I mean, we've almost put it off for 8 months, so I think it's due time. And then what happens after that happens.
Understood. Okay. Commissioner Fleming.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything.
All right. Commissioner Sessions.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, I have a couple of things. This past, was it Monday, at the library, we had the Florida Goal, what does that flyer say down there, Commissioner Fleming, on it? FloridaTreasureHunt.org.
For the treasure hunt.
Event at the library, and there was a small turnout, but I'll just let you know that one person who turned out got over $900 back, and then another person got almost $900 back. And there was another person that got like $40, and there were some people that found some relatives that had money. They were going to go back and talk to them. So it's a real thing, and it works. And all you have to do is input your first and last name, or under the first name, if you put your name and your middle name or middle initial, that helps. And then your last name, that's all you got to do. If you don't have to put in your social security number or anything, it comes up with these accounts that the state is holding money for you from. If it's past 3 years and they've been holding on to this money, an organization like an insurance company, an old employer, I can't think of anything else, but if they've been holding it for 3 years, they have to give it to the state, and then the state holds it until you claim it. So all you got to do is go on and claim it, and they'll send you a check. So we had that event at the library, and I was pleased with the results because of the amount of money that was found for our citizenry. Now, the state is holding $2.5 million worth of money for Suwannee County citizens. So go on there, reclaim your money, spread the word. You know, it's a great program that the state has given us. $1,500 is what we got. Okay. So anyway, so we did that, and then I'll remind you, our budget workshops are going on. We met today from around 9 to about 3 o'clock at City Hall. Tomorrow we'll resume at 9 o'clock until. So if you can, attend those and take part in your county government's budgetary process, which is one of the most important policy issues that we make throughout the year. So, other than that, Ms. Lawrence, you had a comment? Okay, come on up to the podium.
Thank you, Commissioners, community. I just wanted to add to what you just said about the monies that people discovered that they had. I think that there was a law that passed that said that insurance companies who used to just keep monies for whatever reason, they now have to turn them over to the state. So some of that money was insurance policies that people have had, and now they are required to turn it over to the state. So I would encourage everybody to take a look at it. I think you might be surprised. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And one other point is to check it every year, because it's going to continue. It's just a program that's going to continue. So if somebody's holding some money for you and it turns over that year, or maybe an insurance company finds that they're holding this money for your person, or say you have a deceased mother or father, check under their names, because they may have some money there. All you got to do is provide some documentation to prove that as you're an heir, to that estate, and then you'll receive those funds as well. So it doesn't just go to you, it could go to your deceased relatives as well, so check
It's
on
very broad. I mean, old pension plans, light company security deposits.
Right, all that
It's
stuff.
all kind of stuff.
And so, you know, if you find $200 or $300, I mean, it's $200 or $300 you didn't have, so. Anyways, other than that, I don't think we have any informational items this evening. Let's check. Nope. So all I need is one thing. You guys know what it is?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Sessions, seconded by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Kind of narrows it down.
Oh, at least I got